Okay, so here we are at our big day at the Green Year Grow classroom at the Solar Living Institute, and we are finally going to plant. It's full moon, first full moon in May, and I wanted to show you that we have our wood chip mulch on top of our Hugel-Pit bed. This is a Hugel-Pit bed, which I'll explain in a moment, but I wanted to show you the controversial practice of putting wood chip mulch. The old urban legend of wood chips robbing nitrogen from the soil is just simply not true. Any master gardener will tell you that. It's actually a relationship between the nitrogen and the carbon in the soil that helps to feed the organisms that slowly release the nitrogen. So it could be argued that wood chips actually help store and hold and slowly release the nitrogen over a longer period of time. And in many studies done in institutes, by farmers, by farming communities, by professionals and universities have shown that yes, wood chips do not leach away any nitrogen from the soil. So the reason that we put the wood chips on is to keep the soil protected in the hot, dry weather here that we have in the summers in Hopland, California. So if you have simple mulch, right away you're going to save 20 to 30%, maybe even as much as 50% of the water you use. All right, now we're greening our grow. And then if you look down, you look into the soil, you're going to see there's some green little lumps in here. That's actually organic alfalfa pellets. And we mix that into the native soil that we did on the top. The top is a homemade compost mixed with store-bought compost, mixed with our native soil, and then also mixed with some organic alfalfa pellets, which are used for feeding rabbits. And this slowly releases nitrogen over the next 3 months, and that's going to feed our cannabis plant when it needs it most, during its vegetative stage. This will require no additional fertilizer. We will never have to buy any bottled nutrients, and we're going to have a wonderful, healthy plant here. So what else is in here? Well, first you'll notice this strange little mushroom tower poking up over here. And this mushroom tower is actually a worm tower. We like to make them look like mushrooms. Eventually we'll paint some white dots on here. It'll look kind of like a famous Santa Claus mushroom. But if you remove this top, it's a pipe, and down that pipe we put scraps from the kitchen. Now of course everything we eat in the kitchen is full of minerals and nutrients, and then we put worms down in this pipe, and what that does is it colonizes the worms in the grow bed itself. So literally you're feeding worms. You have a worm bin in your grow bed. So what's that doing for us? Well, by feeding the vegetables to the worm tower, they're going to break down and turn into valuable worm castings, packed full of nutrients. One worm can triple the amount of minerals available to the plant and triple the amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Not only that, the worms are going to move out into the soil, and as they move around through the soil, they're going to do the fertilizing for us as they poop right near the roots, and they're going to aerate the areas between the soil. And what's in the manure of a worm? Lots and lots of water. So they're literally watering the plant for us. When it comes time to water our plant, we're going to water straight through the worm tube, and that's going to give us a nice saturation from the bottom of this pit. Now I promised you I would define what this is. This is a Hugel-Pit grow bed. It is a 4-foot by 4-foot hole in the ground. And what we did is we put old rotten logs at the bottom of this pit. They're acting like a living sponge layer. On top of that, we put some small branches to help fill in those larger cavities, and it's also part of that fungal dominant sponge layer. And then on top of that, we put some of our grass clippings here from the Solar Institute, which we're lucky enough happen to be organic. We don't spray any types of herbicides or pesticides on our grass. And then we continue to layer up more woody material, rotten straw, more compost, another layer of shredded newspaper, another layer of dynamic accumulator plants that we grow right here for this purpose, like stinging nettles, like comfrey, like yarrow. And then we put in tap-rooted weeds. Why did we put in a tap-rooted weed? Because tap-rooted weeds are incredible at mining minerals. And we made layer after layer of this until we ended up with this mounding bed. It's called a Hugel-Pit. And then at the top, we made a nice mix using compost, and as I mentioned before, a little bit of chicken manure and some alfalfa pellets to slowly release the food into the soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig a nice little hole here for our future resident, our cannabis plant. I'm going to try to not cover up the wood chips, try not to mix the wood chips in, keep them separate. And we have this nice double OG plant here, and we've been using the genetics of the same breeder for a long time. It's 2 different varieties of OG crossed together. and he has incredible genetics. So I'm going to just temporarily take the nursery tape off of here, and then I'm going to massage the roots, support the plant, hold her upside down, and carefully place her into her home. Now for me in the wheelchair, sometimes it's hard to reach, but I got it. So we're just gonna cover it up with our soil. I'm barely gonna pack it in place. And then I'm gonna recover it with our wood chips, give it a nice mulch layer to protect it. Okay, so next, if my assistant could please hand me that cage, we'll go ahead and put a cage over it for support and for training. And now this bed should use about 50 to 60% less water than simply growing in a pot, because it's kind of acting like a reservoir down there in that pit. And on top of that, there we go, I have a couple of those pieces of bamboo, please, for some support. There's a reservoir down there. It's going to basically wick up the moisture from below. So let's just put a couple pieces of bamboo in here to hold the plant secure. Can I have one more piece, please? Thanks. Alright, this is temporary. I'll get some nursery tape and do this right. But as you can see, this plant is now planted. It will never need bottled fertilizer of any sort. As it breaks down, the fungal dominant material and minerals at the bottom will slowly release. And as that happens, those nutrients will become available. So as this pile breaks down, it will release the nutrients needed for the plant at that stage in life. Imagine that. There's no mixing of catalyst with grow and bloom. You just build the soil in the beginning, make layers that will release it. You let your worms do the work. Once a week I'm going to feed this worm tower. Once a week I'm going to drench the worm tower. All those nutrients will be washed down and fed to the plant, and this plant should do really well. Check out www.greenyourgrow.com for more tips and tricks, and make sure you sign up for our newsletter and join us for one of our classes. You can check out the classes at the Solar Living Center, which is solarliving.org. All right, thanks. Until next time, green your grow.